Welcome to another edition of Insights on Ombudsman Radio. I'm your host, Bisakemi Alfred, and on today's edition, we're going to discuss with someone from the Private Investigations Department, where she tells us how they work to resolve your complaints. Stay tuned. Will you meet you, ma?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Chidimma Udo-Ukpai, and I am the Principal Investigation Officer in the Public Complaints Commission.
Okay, so we have a few questions for you today. So, can you tell us a bit about your department?
Okay, Investigation Department is actually a very interesting place to work because you have to interface with people who sometimes come to you very helpless and hopeless, like they don't know where else to run to, because the commission attends to people who don't have money probably to seek the services of a lawyer. So the cases we treat mostly are cases of administrative injustices where somebody probably had put in a number of years in a place, or it could be a few months, and they weren't paid. Some of them are not paid their salaries. Some of them are not paid their pensions. Some of them probably had a contract with an organization or a company where they delivered services and they were not paid. So they come to us to seek redress, to solve the problem or to mediate between them and the respondents. We call them respondents, those who the complainants are reporting to the commission. So that's where our job comes in. We find a way to mediate and then get a redress.
So, I was told there's a difference between the public and the private investigations departments. Can you just enlighten us on that?
Okay, well, I could say I've been fortunate to just work with the private department, but usually both private and public is investigation we do. But for the investigation, we deal mostly with companies, we deal with private companies, we deal with banks, we deal with organizations that are not public in the sense that they are not government agencies. I think in the public they deal with mostly MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies. Yes. So what the public unit or department does is to go to ministries. If somebody had probably been a staff of like Ministry of Agri, as the case may be, or a department, they have worked for, maybe they've put in 35 years in service, and after retirement their benefits were not paid. So the public unit handles most of such cases. So in investigation, private investigation, we deal with, like I said earlier, we deal with individual companies. We deal with, we also do pension. If you had worked in a private organization and in the course of your work, you weren't paid pension, you can also come to private unit deals with that.
Okay.
We're able to address that issue.
So, can you walk us through the process of the investigation, how you carry out investigations?
Okay. The first point of call in investigation is for you to lodge a complaint. So you being a complainant, an individual comes to the commission to lodge a complaint where it is a written document, so you write what the issues are. And there's what we call a prayer. A prayer is what you want the commission to do for you. So you're supposed to also include that in your complaint letter. And then certain information is also needed or are needed. Like you have to tell us, you have to attach your appointment letter, or if there's a termination letter, you need to attach that, because if you're making a complaint, we need proof to know that you had really worked in an organization. You can't just make a verbal complaint. So when you do that, the matter is lodged and then it goes through the normal bureaucratic process where it now comes to a schedule officer. Like we are schedule officers who handle such cases. So the cases are assigned to us. So what we'll now do is, first of all, we'll now read through what you said. Because it is an investigation, we also need to know if you're telling the truth. So when we read your complaints, we check for those documents. Sometimes complainants don't attach those documents. We can request for it. After that, we write to the respondent. That's the company you're complaining against. So we dispatch those letters and wait for them to respond, because sometimes when they go through our complaints, they counter what the complainant says. They may be lying. Some complainants lie, yes, they do. They lie. And then when they respond to us, we now compare both documents, what the respondent sent to us and what the complainant complained about. So now that's where the mediation comes in.
Okay.
Sometimes the complainant sees a letter and said that they have brought them to Public Complaints Commission, and then they're able to say, we're ready to sort out the matter. Please tell the complainant to come. We're owing him so months. And then the matter is resolved. Not in all cases. Sometimes we have to go beyond that.
So how do you deal with complainants that can't read or write?
Okay, yes. That's a bit of a challenge, but it's not even a problem. For them, it's a challenge. You know, there are people who, in fact, we even have language barriers. It's not just reading and writing. There are some who don't speak English, who don't even understand English. So we get an interpreter. That's what they do. Like me, I understand Hausa. So there are times when you're coming to complain, and I said, can you speak Hausa? So as they speak, we help them to write, and then, tell them, read back to them what they have said, and then the letter, the complaint is now lodged. There's a way we must find a means of communicating, so they're able to write down what their complaints are.
Okay. You said something about mediating. I think you also do case chats and
yes,
case conferences. Can you put us through what those?
Yes, PCC talks about alternative dispute resolution, where we use this means to resolve cases. Now, for the case chats are usually done, one, when the respondent refuses to reply the commission's letter. Yes, we have some respondents like that. When we write to them, I don't know if it's out of fear or they don't want to admit to the fact that maybe they're at fault. So when we write the first letter, we give them, there's a time frame for them to respond. We give them 30 days. That's like a month.
30 working days.
30 working days. Sorry, okay. 30 working days. So if they refuse to respond, we'll write a reminder. But a reminder doesn't take that long, because you had the opportunity of responding within 30 days that you didn't. So if we've sent, after the second reminder, we don't do reminders anymore. We call for a case chat. That's one of the reasons why we call for case chat. The second reason why we call for case chat is when there are discrepancies. Maybe you didn't do, I did. You said, I didn't say. Where you have the complainant and respondent going back and forth on the allegations. So it's okay. The best thing to do is to bring two of them together. So we have a meeting where everybody airs their view. And a lot of times we've been able to resolve issues like that, because they are facing each other. You can't lie, because the other person knows when the other one is lying. So we do a case chat when we want to resolve issues like that. We bring them together to have a discussion and we agree. Then when this process fails, case chat, that's when we do a case conference. And a case conference is like you're taking it to a higher body. The case chat is done at the level of the director, the department. The director of investigation is the one who is in charge of a case chat. Or she can delegate if she's not around or he is not around. Like the director level anyway. Junior officers don't do case chats. Then, if we're not able to resolve the issue at that level, it is the Honorable Chief Commissioner that presides over a case conference. And that is when the matter is really, it has dragged, that we're not able to resolve it at that level.
So that means case chat comes before case conference?
Definitely. Okay. We don't even want to take a matter to that level of case conference, except if it's really very, it's been difficult to resolve for months.
So how do you handle dangerous or confrontational situations while conducting an investigation?
Okay. There's one thing we do again in investigation. We call it on the spot. On the spot investigation is where an officer goes to see the respondent in their location. For instance, if they're complaining against this organization, assuming this is an organization, I can take a letter and bring it here and say, okay, let me even see a superior. Let's even talk. So I'm coming with a letter to dispatch and then having an opportunity to even speak with someone who would give me an idea into it. So when we do that, we want to get more information, and then we ask them if there's a way the matter can be resolved. We are advised never to go for on the spot alone. No, because you need a witness. You need, in case you need backup. Let me just say something. So you don't have to go for on the spot alone. And then if you go for on the spot and there's a confrontation, or the respondent or whoever is being confrontational, you just quietly leave. You don't. But when you come back, you do your report. And thank God for the enforcement unit. The enforcement, in PCC, we don't prosecute. No, we don't. We don't have that power to prosecute, like take the matter to. But the good thing is that the enforcement unit is able to at least, exercise some form of force, because they have like a team of police officers that they can go. If you're refusing to collect our letters, they can enforce certain things. So if a respondent is confrontational, you're not supposed to banter words or quarrel. No, just leave the place, because if they hurt you, that's another problem. So we'll leave and then come back and re-strategize on how to make the next move.
So can you give the viewers an example of a successful investigation or
that you've
handled?
A lot.
What were the results?
Yes. Let me remember one in particular. We had this, there are a number of people, but they work for the same company. There are about 7. So they came complaining that they had worked and they were unlawfully terminated, like the company terminated their, appointment. So they came to seek for redress in PCC. And when I went through the file, it's a construction company.
Okay.
And I think their complaint was, they had a case, because it's not there are certain complaints that come, it's not a case, so we throw it out. We do, especially if the matter is in court. Let me not digress. So when they came, I looked through, they hadn't paid them pension, and as at the time they were relieved from their jobs, I think they were owing them salaries. So what we do, first off, before you even take sides, you must write to the respondent to hear their own side of the story. It's a must, because you'll now be able to align it properly. So when they responded, they agreed that yes, that they were owing them salaries, and that they explained to us that it was because the company was going through some form of financial issues. But that please, the commission should give them a little time. They're able to sort it out and then pay. So we agreed to the time frame. But when they didn't respond, we wrote to them again and said, okay, this time frame you gave us to give you some time has elapsed. What are you doing? And I said, okay, we should tell them to come so time. So they came, and I noticed that when they came, because if you resolve the matter as a respondent, we need proof. We don't take it verbal, because you may be lying. So what they do, they actually went to their pension managers and cleared the backlog of the pension they were owing them, and then paid them all the monies they were owing them. The company is in Muse too. So when they do that, we also tell the complainant to write to us a letter of appreciation, so that everybody is apart. Because sometimes they come to tell you that what the respondent said is not true, that they didn't pay them so amount. So we ask them to bring the proof from their own end, their bank statements, their pension statement. So they brought it. Then we matched it with what the respondent gave us, and I noticed that it was true. So that case was very successful. We paid all of them.
All right. Thank you for coming on today's edition. So glad to have you. This is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of Insights on Public Complaints Commission. Don't forget, I'm your host, Akemi Alfred. Thank you for tuning in. See you at the next edition. Thank you.